Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am so excited for today's episode because we have got a real entrepreneur on today's episode. This is somebody who's incredible at finding opportunities, solving problems, and executing. I love how much this guy takes action. So let me introduce you to today's guest and fellow entrepreneur. His name is Harte Nielson. Hart is the founder and CEO of Ario Health and one of the rare leaders that's fluent at the intersection of AI, real-world data, and enterprise software. He is a builder of multi-million-dollar product lines. He's launched 17 SaaS products. He's scaled platforms from scrappy beta programs to global adoption and helped life sciences organizations transform messy, fragmented patient data into clear, actionable insight. Known for his bold, systems-level thinking, Hart brings a rare blend of scientific context, commercial instinct, and go-to-market leadership, advising biotech, diagnostics, and medtech innovators on how AI can accelerate evidence generation and unlock the value that's trapped in healthcare data. Today, he's pushing the life sciences industry toward a future where AI-powered real-world data becomes a true engine of discovery. This is someone who, like I said, he's an action taker, he's a problem solver, but also he sees what the future looks like, and he's already brought those solutions to today. So I'm excited about this one. Let's dive straight into my interview with Harte Nielson. All right, Hart, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Heck yes. I'm so excited to get into your personal journey as well as all the cool things that you're up to with Ario Health. So let's start with you. Take us beyond the bio. Who's Hart? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
It's interesting. I've been kind of an entrepreneur from the very beginning. I started with helping out family businesses, and my parents were entrepreneurs, and I've always just had this hunger to kind of find ways to solve unique problems. And so I've spent my career constantly looking for ways to make impacts and make innovations, and I found that what really excites me is this kind of constant evolution of technology and the way that we continually unlock new ways to use and leverage these tools. And that's what kind of drove me throughout my career. I started in the research lab, actually, performing bench tests and running tests for research projects. And what I saw then was a big precipice of the digitization and computerization of kind of healthcare data and research data. And what became obvious was while there was this wealth of data, there was no easy way to share, use, or provide insights with that data. And so our partners that would use that data would struggle to find value in it, even though it was hugely informative information. So that kind of drove me to try and find ways to better unlock that challenge. So I spent years first in a consulting role, learning the industry ins and outs, and then moved on to actually building my own software products. Had an amazing stint with an amazing leader in the SaaS industry for life sciences, Viva, where I got another amazing exposure on the ways to really drive innovations through use of cloud. And now we're looking to take that to the next innovative kind of hurdle, which is the leveraging of AI to bring even more insights to it. So I've kind of seen this problem grow from the bench to the boardroom, now into the build cycle. And so we're trying to really solve that problem for our customers.
Yeah, I love that overview, Hart, especially because you heard at the very top of today's episode, the fact that I so admire the fact that you are an action taker. You are a problem solver. You don't just observe these things that are going on. You're actually doing something about it. Talk to us about that impetus to action, because I feel like right now, especially here at the beginning of 2026, everyone's trying to figure out what the future looks like. And everyone's throwing around a lot of the words that you've already mentioned of data, of AI, of all of these things that are now possible. But somewhere along the way, you just said, no, I'm going to be part of the solution and I'm going to make this stuff happen. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, being in that kind of entrepreneurial mindset, you have to find that certain hunger to be a problem solver yourself. It's, what I found is throughout my journey, as I looked at kind of each stage of innovation, it started with the first days of just like business software that could run charts on Excel spreadsheets, to then building big data warehouses and building big things we refer to as data lakes, and this wealth of trying to gather data, but no way to actually leverage and use it. And I spent a lot of time working with customers that were just frustrated why they couldn't get value out of something that seemed so attainable. And what I kind of found myself is I ended up hungry to be a solution provider for that. And what I think most entrepreneurs in this kind of space share in common is a certain unwillingness to wait for somebody else to do it. It's a driver to say, I want to be the one to solve it, and a certain willingness to know you're going to get it wrong more than you're going to get it right. You're going to have struggles along the way, but hopefully you believe that you can drive to kind of persevere to a solution.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that attitude. I feel like all of us can borrow that inside of our own industries, and especially in your industry, Hart. I think that it's especially relevant, the fact that you do have to not only see those opportunities and those gaps, but you also have to be calculated and measured and strategic in the decisions that you're making. And I think that in a world where everyone's trying to figure out AI, it's so brilliant the way that you as the innovator are saying, hey, let's leverage this for good. There are a lot of scary things that we can let others worry about, but you're really using it as a powerful force. Talk to us about it there, because you obviously hear the mainstream narrative about all the fears that people have. Is it going to replace jobs? Is it going to replace expertise? But talk to us about your innovative and positive way that you're bringing it to the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we see with AI is the common influx with any big disruptive technology that comes in. I remember the big .com boom and the way the internet was going to completely change everything. I remember the horror stories of no more Main Streets, so no more brick and mortar stores, and every bookstore gone, and that was kind of the big kind of fear that was going to come. And then what we saw is that it went through its peaks and its valleys, and it found a stable level where we have found ways to leverage and use it for lots of value, but put controls and kind of boundaries and barriers to make sure that it is kind of driving for value. So as we saw that kind of transition, that trend move out, we saw the same thing kind of happening in AI. And that is that the initial promise is this huge potential for kind of instant answers and instant insights. And then as we kind of dove under the covers, we've learned that there's lots of assumptions that are being made and lots of kind of guesswork being done, usually by the users themselves. They kind of assume what the AI is telling them is accurate and true, and not really checking and validating that. What we're doing is bringing that second layer of control into AI. So what we're doing is not just making it so that it can give you those great kind of insights and answers from real world prompts using standard language and easy to frame language. But what we're doing is layering on top of that the levels of traceability, defensibility, and visibility into how it came up with its insights. What was the basis? What was the data it was used? What are the assumptions and calculations it's making? So what we're trying to do is bring that level of kind of rigor to the solution so that the AI doesn't have to be scary and can be really trustable.
And hearing the way you talk about that, Hart, I give you huge credit, because you are obviously an entrepreneur at heart, and you've been an entrepreneur for quite some time. But it sounds like you so fluently speak the language of the life sciences companies that you're talking to, because you're not, I mean, you could tell an entrepreneur or marketer, hey, AI is going to do all those things for you, and we're just instantly going to get excited. We don't necessarily need to understand how or why it works, but obviously in the life sciences space, they do want to know the how behind the scenes. Talk to us about that merging of you with your entrepreneurial thinking and your entrepreneurial background, and then operating within the life sciences industry, because you're crossing a bridge that I think more and more, I think innovators need to combine powers and build those bridges and cross those bridges. You're already doing it. What's that been like?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, one of the biggest challenges I struggled with the life sciences industry and working with it is that the level of rigor that has to go into kind of everything you do, and the level of validation and defensibility that has to be there, meant that most of the kind of big innovative software products that were coming out were very long running until they could get into until they could become usable by life sciences companies. So we'd see retail companies doing really innovative things with new software products, and life sciences was kind of unable to leverage and use that because they had to go through so much kind of regulatory hurdles to be able to confirm that these were usable products. So that became a big black box. And so there's two ways to solve that. Either you kind of stick your head in the sand and say, we can't solve it, it's too hard, it's too big, the industry's got big challenges, or you see that as a hungry industry just begging for somebody to take on their problems and their challenges. And so what I found is that while there's big challenges and big hurdles in trying to work in this regulated environment, there's also a real appreciation by those customers and those people in these companies trying to drive these innovations and looking for people to help them solve some of these like structural foundational problems.
And speaking of those foundational problems, Hart, there's no shortage of them when it comes to what it means to operate a business in the real world. We've got so many moving parts. We've got our products, our services, we've got our customers, we've got our innovations. Obviously, within the life sciences space, there's so many there's research, there's so much that goes into all of this. I'd love for you to directly address, for listeners who aren't familiar with Ario Health just yet, I think it's brilliant how you're applying AI and data to lots of these problems. You're not just talking about their clinical research level stuff. You're really solving a wide variety of problems. What exactly, for listeners, give them that overview of all the powers of Ario.
Yeah, so what we're doing is taking a breadth of data that is available in the kind of, in the ecosystem, and bringing it together in a way that's really not been scalable and really effective for a very long time. So what we're dealing with is what we refer to as real world data. And that is literally just the data about patients' real world experiences in their kind of healthcare journey. So that's everything from the healthcare records at your hospital or your doctor's office that they put in there, the tests that you get run, your MRIs and your CAT scans and CT scans and those types of things. It's that breadth of data that's out there, but I like to refer to this as like a big box of puzzles. You took a whole bunch of puzzles and you took all the pieces and dumped them into a big box, and then you were told, now put the puzzles back together. And the problem is these aren't really designed to all work together, and they're not designed to interlink. So what we're doing is actually now bringing this breadth of data from all these disparate sources that are not reliably connected or not easily connected. We're managing to merge them together to then give our customers a more comprehensive view of the patient's experience outside the clinical setting, in the real world, what their day-to-day experience is on a medication, on a therapy. Do they have complications? Do they go off it and come back on it? All those types of things that you only learn by watching the full breadth of that real world data experience for patients. If you do that, and you do that really efficiently, there are amazing insights that can drive your business forward. And one of those big ones that we focus on is we refer to as label expansion. We automate this for our customers. So label expansion is kind of as it implies. A drug gets approved on the market for usually one or two indications, say a certain type of cancer, maybe a certain autoimmune disease. It'll get approved for those types of things. That's usually what the clinical trial was designed. I mean, that is what the clinical trial was designed to show, and that's what the FDA approved for. One of the great drivers for how you continually earn revenue from these drugs before they lose their patent protections is to find other ways that this drug could be useful. Historically, that took a lot of scientific rigor and behind the scenes research. We have now seen that we can open up and expose that to the data scientists and the real world users of the data so that they can get insights faster and more easily. One of the great kind of stories about this is a drug that was kind of destined to die on the market in the mid 2000s. It was made by Bristol Myers Squibb. It is known as Abilify, and it was supposed to be a new class of antidepressant drug. And it wasn't really working as expected, and they were struggling with the drug. And then in clinical trials, they discovered that certain patients that were on other antidepressants were having really good effects when they were taking them in combination. And Bristol Myers Squibb instantly identified this huge opportunity that the two in cohort worked more beneficial than either independently. That exploded their market for both drugs, because now the two in pair were a much bigger value to the market. That type of label expansion is what we can now automate for our customers.
So Hart, hearing that, a lot of listeners' minds are going to go straight to where I feel like most entrepreneurial minds want to go, which is, well, then this sounds like a no-brainer. This must be super easy to walk in and help people, because really it's one of those cases I love in the world of entrepreneurship, how frequently we see win-win-win opportunities, is that you as the founder, you get to win, your clients get to win, and their customers also get to win. It really is that visual illustration of a rising tide lifting all boats. Hart, it's obviously not that easy always as a founder and as an entrepreneur. Where do the struggles come in? I'm sure that you're talking to a lot of people, and obviously you've such a cool client base and a roster that you have worked with. What do those conversations look like? Where's the pushback? Because let's face it, as an innovator yourself, the cutting edge, you're the one pushing the envelope, and sometimes people aren't ready for those innovations.
Yeah. As any entrepreneur in these kind of innovative spaces know, kind of breaking the cycle sometimes is the hardest part of anything. It is about giving customers trust that disrupting the way they've done it, whether it's efficient or inefficient, hard or easy, costly or not, it's been something they've been through, they've worked years on, they've seen it work, they trust it, they rely on it. That is the biggest challenge that we're facing when we go into new customers. It's about them finding kind of confidence, trust, and belief that we are truly there as a partner for them. I think that's one of the biggest things that we try and focus on. It is about building confidence and trust with them that we are committed to not just that our product can do what they need out of the box. It rarely can. It almost always has some gap somewhere. Any entrepreneur knows this. But what we do try and focus on is that we are truly in partnership with them, and we will see to closing those gaps and solving those problems quickly with them. So that's the big process we go through. That's long cycles. That's lots of kind of education and kind of knowledge sharing with our clients to build that confidence. And then what we do is we try and be a really open book. So we try and show our customers that we are the kind of opposite end of black box AI. We are kind of transparent and visible AI. And so we found that when we allow our customers to truly get their hands on the product, they find a lot of confidence, and there's a lot of kind of fears that fall away pretty quickly.
Hart, I feel like that answer right there just revealed so much of your secret sauce, because you talk about long cycles and having that patience throughout getting to know your customer. My head goes straight to, well, yeah, I bet your consulting days really gave you that. Yeah. You talked about building those real life catered solutions. And I'm just like, well, yeah, you've been a builder of so many SaaS products that have changed industries. Of course, that comes naturally to you. And then third, you started out as a researcher in medical labs. And I think that so many of these interesting ingredients make you the founder that you are. Talk to us about stealing from all those past experiences, because I think all too often people think an entrepreneurial path is linear, that if your career was very successful in this way, well, then that's the type of company that you're going to start. Your career has obviously taken twists and turns. So Hart, what's it been like to steal all of the best from all of the hats that you've worn throughout your career?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I kind of love your analogy about that, because it is a real kind of stitching together of mixed experiences. I think from the consulting days, one of the big things you really learn is that your best value is your partnership with your customers, that your ability to make impacts for them will make them value what you do for them, and that constant give and take will be rewarded. I have many stories of customers. I went in with little projects that were going to be small little initiatives that then exploded into very big enterprise-wide projects, because we just took on more and more problems, and they saw that we were committed. They saw that that we were really invested in their success as much as our success. So I find that that's the first thing I really try and do with my customers, is show them that I believe that the only way my business grows is if you want more of my business offerings, and that only can be of value if that is directly of impact to you. And so finding those places where I can make impacts for you and you can find that value is huge. So that's the first thing, the consulting experience. The second thing I think I found in then working in the software space, with a startup from very early days, was how you can then take that same partnership model and apply it to new products with customers. I often tell the story of some of our very first customers that we sold at Viva. We had product features that were completely broken, but all we could sell them on was, we promise we'll fix them within a certain amount of time. And at first, as you can guess, most people didn't buy it and didn't accept that. But as we started to demonstrate that we were truly committed to them and truly committed to their customer success, the problem of, your product doesn't do this now, went away, because they truly trusted that we would be invested in their success and close those gaps. We're trying to kind of bring all that together here as well. So we're partnering with our customers. We're really understanding their big initiatives. They're kind of from the top level to the bottom level. What is the C-suite down to the individual contributor struggling with, need to do, and what is their kind of success based on? How do we find solutions that really drive that success kind of end to end?
And I would imagine you're doing all of that while also creatively using AI in your own entrepreneurial journey. So, Hart, I've got to put you on the spot there. It's been really fun here in the beginning stages of 2026 to ask fellow founders about all the different ways, because I feel like we're all, the first year that ChatGPT was available, I feel like everyone was just asking it very basically, hey, give me 30 days of social media content. But there's so many incredible things we as founders can leverage AI for. Take us behind the scenes. What are some of the ways that you're using it personally?
I'll tell you right now, we fully can drink from the Kool-Aid cup here. We buy the value of AI. We also understand the limitations, risks, and challenges with it. But we kind of believe that if you go in with a very clear head and clear visibility and kind of what you're using it for, you can get amazing value out of it. So we use it from everything as simple as generating marketing content, social media images and pages like that. So even the very basics, to running email campaigns and monitoring and managing email campaigns for us. We use it down into the very technical layer. One of my first big uses of the newest code capabilities in ChatGPT was to help us expand a certain component of our data model that we needed to do very quickly for a customer and didn't have the runway with our traditional development team. And we've managed to close that gap very quickly. So we find that if you use it with kind of a really transparent understanding of what it can do and what it can't do, it is a huge accelerator. I estimate that I probably have 3 or 4 people I would have had to bring on earlier just to kind of manage some of our runway that we've been able to kind of push off until we're kind of a bigger stage and a kind of next stage of growth.
And I want to go deeper there, because I feel like this is an important conversation that we need to have in the business world. Is some people might listen to what you just said, Hart, and think, oh, so it is replacing humans. Whereas what my mind hears is, no, it's actually helping you grow even faster to the point where you get to hire more people. Talk to us about that growth enablement that comes from it, because I feel like you're practicing it internally. And of course, you're also practicing what you preach with your clients. I'd love to tap into that part of your mindset.
Yeah, no, I love that topic because it's just one of the big things is it going to kind of remove everybody? I'll tell you right now, you want to kind of hear my soapbox on this. I think like lots of other disruptive technology, we're going to see it kind of spike and then wane as we learn where it is truly kind of able to do repeatable tasks as well as kind of humans in the process, and where it really can't, and it really still, we demand the human level interaction engagement from it. But I think what you just said is a really key point that we talk about, is it's actually driving and accelerating our business. It's not slowing it down. So, the little example of updating our code, we would have most likely just not been able to work with that customer, or we would have had to push them off. We maybe would have been 6 months or longer for us to kind of get ready to work with them. So all those things would have pulled the business out longer versus driving it forward faster now. So yeah, it definitely kept us from hiring a few people early on. But now instead, we're actually looking at building teams. So instead of bringing on just our next level marketing team person, we're now looking at bringing on a marketing team. So it is very much helping us in the early stage be kind of nimble and agile, but at the later stages, it's helping us actually drive and build as we need to. Because there's no way that I'm going to ever find an AI tool that's going to replace my full marketing team. I would be surprised at how you could do that.
Yeah. Oh, I love hearing the way you articulate that. And in fact, it's going to make your marketing team have superpowers, and they're going to work in conjunction. And I think that that's such a beautiful future of AI. Hart, while I've got you with your executive cap on, I've got to talk to you about time horizon, because it's very clear to me in getting to talk with you here today how strategic and intentional you are in not only thinking about your clients, but of course, thinking about your own business as well. When you sit down for your executive time, what is that time horizon? How are you planning out, quarter by quarter? I'm a big fan of quarters. I think you can do a lot in 90 days. Year to year, obviously your industry is changing incredibly quickly every single day with new technologies. So what does that executive time and that time horizon look like?
Yeah, so I think there's two things. One, I'll never divorce any entrepreneur the fact that it should always be involved with intense learning. If you're not constantly learning about your industry, about the new technologies, about the new innovations, you are by definition falling behind. So I actually spend a lot of my time researching, learning, and understanding innovations. As you just mentioned, in an industry that is in rapid change, the wealth of information that's coming out at any given time is huge. So we've actually, to your point, I used to really like to think about quarters. We really think about it month by month now. We are looking at kind of every kind of month as a kind of small project window of kind of what needs to happen now to kind of move the needle. And it's a constant mixture of kind of the strategic side of the business. How do we find the next place where we need to go? And then the operational side of the business, which is how do we improve and perfect what we already are doing, so we don't just kind of keep moving forward on the assumption that growth will drive benefit. So it's really a mixture of kind of that discipline of how do you constantly look forward, but how do you also make sure you aren't losing sight of where you're at and where you can go from there.
Yes, I love that. Although that answer is going to make your answer to this next and final question very difficult, because you've already dropped so many knowledge bombs on us during today's conversation. But Hart, I've got to put you on the spot one last time and ask you, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? And knowing that we're being listened to by both wantrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, and knowing that you are one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur for a long time now, what's that one thing that you want to leave them with today?
I think the best thing I tell most of my executive team is embrace fear. The opportunity for entrepreneurs are almost driven out of a hole, a gap, something that somebody else hasn't seen, or somebody's doing but not maybe doing the right way or the best way. That means that you are going to step into a black hole, a place where there isn't obvious answers, where there won't always be an obvious solution or an obvious way to make the next step. If that fear is too high, entrepreneurship's hard. But if you can embrace that fear and kind of learn to almost live and kind of need that fear, it can be a really enabling kind of mechanism, because what it does for me, and it does for, I think, for really successful entrepreneurs, is it constantly makes them evaluate, check, reevaluate through this kind of reaffirming cycle. And that's where you can find kind of the motivation to keep pushing through when the entrepreneurial cycles get hard and long and challenging.
Yes, so well said. Advice that sometimes is easier said than done, but we always need that advice as a reminder. So I'm super appreciative of you bringing that to our listeners here today, as well as all of the incredible insights that you've brought throughout here. I'm very excited for listeners to go forth and actually see the incredible stuff that you've built and that you and your team are continuing building, because, as I said, you are pushing the envelope in your space. And I think that that's great news for all of us societally, because you're pushing the envelope in ways that those downstream effects, they touch every single one of us, whether it's us directly benefiting from the work of life sciences companies or loved ones. I mean, I think we all fit that bucket. So Hart, with all of that said, drop some links on us for listeners who want to find your work online. Where should they go from here?
Great. You can find us at ario.health. You can also read our blog at artificiallyreal.blog. And then you can also find us on LinkedIn at Ario Health LLP, and also on X and Facebook.
Yes, and listeners, you already know we're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. We're also linking to Hart's personal LinkedIn, so you hear how much he loves talking about this stuff. So whether you are a potential partner, you want to collaborate in some way, do not be shy. Or heck, I'm going to throw this out there because way too many people are shy. If you hear someone brilliant on a podcast, just reach out and say thank you and say that something really resonated with you. So don't be shy about doing that. I know most people are. Otherwise, Hart, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.